Hi, I'm Katrina, and this is Boldly Challenging Ableism. I'm your host, Katrina Simons. I'm the Community Program Specialist at the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota. This program explores various topics that impact people with disabilities in our community. Each episode addresses a different aspect of our society within the context of ableism. Ableism is the prejudice that stems from the belief or belief system that assumes someone is less capable or less worthy because of a real or perceived difference in ability or function. On this program, we hope to answer some questions you may have been afraid to ask, or maybe some you didn't even know you had. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Boldly. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about what a waiver is and long-term supports and services. And I'm so happy to welcome our guest, Kathy Ware, today. Thanks so much for joining us. Kathy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Thanks for having me. First of all, I'm a registered nurse, been a registered nurse for 25 years. I worked as a waiver case manager for about 8 years, and now I'm working as a Min Choices certified assessor for about the past 9 years.
And you are also a parent too, right? I
am. Yes. I have a 30-year-old son. His name is Kylan Ware. He lives at home with me. I am a Partners in Policymaking graduate. I've served on the ARC Board of Directors in the early 2000s. And Kylan has a genetic deletion. It's called MEF2C haploinsufficiency. So he has that gene deletion, and that results in multiple and severe to profound disabilities.
Can you walk us through some of Kylan's support needs if you're comfortable with it?
Absolutely. So Kylan requires total care. He is dependent 100% in all of his activities of daily living, as well as his instrumental activities of daily living. He has a gastrostomy tube, jejunostomy tube, intractable epilepsy and seizures that have to be monitored and taken care of. And of course, the array of medications and things to keep him healthy and on track.
Okay, and can you just, for people who don't know, can you just tell us really quick what IADLs are and ADLs are?
Yep. ADLs are activities of daily living: dressing, bathing, grooming, transferring, mobility, positioning. Instrumental activities of daily living are things like preparing meals, transportation, medication administration, any of those tasks.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you walk us through what a day might look like for Kylan?
Yeah. So, Kylan requires some cares overnight, that I attend to. And then he has a staff that'll get there about 8 o'clock in the morning. We have a ceiling lift at home, get him out of bed. After we, change him, make sure everything is okay, check his skin. Then we start his tube feeding. We hook up a feral bag, administer all of his medications, monitor for seizures. Kylan lives at home with me, and I have a wheelchair adapted Telluride for him. So then him and his staff, once he's up and situated, we'll try to go do something for the day, whether it's one of his staff took him roller skating in Burnsville last night.
And does he roller skate, or does he do it like I did it, where he sits in the chair and the person roller skates behind?
He sits in his chair, and his staff, Ashley, loves to roller skate.
That was so fun when I was little. And then we would go get the nachos. I don't know if they still have the nachos.
They probably still have the nachos.
They're really good. And then inevitably somebody would throw up after they roller skated and ate the nachos and roller skated again, because that was, how you did it when you were 9 years old.
Right. Yeah. So then he'll do activities and come home.
And what kind of activities?
Last night they went to the, at the Minnesota Vikings practice stadium in Eagan. They have a drive-through of Christmas lights. So him and his staff went and did the drive-through of Christmas lights. And so he gets out in the community nearly every day to do activities and to do things just like anyone else would.
And does he have favorite things that he can request to do? What is his language like?
He's nonverbal.
He's nonverbal. Okay.
But he expresses himself. And people who are familiar with him know whether he's happy, whether he's engaged in the activity, or whether he's pretty ticked off, and you probably should leave him alone.
Because you could just tell.
You can tell. He lets you know. He lets you know.
Okay. And does he have one of those like boards that he can point to? Like,
we tried to use that for years, and it doesn't work. But he does have the ability to shake his head no to say no and mean no.
So he does know. He does have a no.
Yes.
Does he have a yes?
He struggles with the yes.
Struggles with the yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So we just keep offering different things until it's not a no.
Okay. Perfect. And when you say he has cares overnight, does that mean that somebody needs to be awake all night to care for him?
It does. I have a camera that monitors him and goes to my phone. So when he moves, I can tell if he's having a seizure, if he wakes up, if I need to attend to his incontinent needs.
Okay. So when do you sleep?
Good question. Great question. I will take a lot of naps when staff is there, and but I provide a lot of uncompensated informal care in order for him to stay at home.
Okay, and are so you don't really sleep through the night, or you can find staff overnight if sometimes?
Excellent question. There's not enough money to pay for the care that he needs. The level of care that he needs isn't supported through a self-directed CDCS budget.
Okay, so does that mean that if he wasn't in a self-directed model, that you could get formalized nursing support, but since you wanted to give him a higher quality of life, you forwent the formalized nursing support at night, and now it's just you?
Yes, that's 100% accurate. That would be a 100% accurate statement. He's on a CAC waiver because he is nursing or hospital level of care. I'm a registered nurse, so I provide all that care and delegation to staff under my nursing license free of charge. That also allows me then to pay his direct care staff a higher wage per hour, so they do show up and they can support their families and earn a decent living helping to take care of Kylan.
Okay, and how many, if it's okay if I ask, how many staff does Kylan have?
3.
3. Okay, and they cover the daytime, some of the daytime hours, but then obviously 3 staff can't cover every single day.
Right.
Or do they?
Right. Typically I will have staff from 8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night.
On the weekdays or every single day?
Every single day.
Oh, that's really good, but that still leaves a lot of hours that you have to do for free, right?
Yes. And I still do the, if they take vacations.
Yeah.
I am 24-hour, 100% backup. So anyone calls in sick, that's me. Anyone needs a vacation, that's me. Staff quit, then that's me. We've recently had a very good stretch of being staffed. Before that, it was not actually.
Okay, and when you say recently, I'm just curious. When did the good stretch start?
Well, it's been about 6 months.
Okay, because that's funny that you say that. Because what I was about to say is about 6 months ago, because many PCAs were able to join a union, and the union was able to put pressure on the legislature and DHS, mostly DHS, to raise the wages from $15 an hour to $19 an hour. And that's about when you say your good stretch started. So if anyone says we didn't need higher wages, you would be incorrect.
And I would say it doesn't go nearly far enough because I have to, again, I forego any nursing pay to pay the staff. And so I pay them $30 to $31 an hour.
And even if you were on a traditional waiver with nurses coming into your house, nurses that were not you coming into your house, you wouldn't be able to find that staff because the rates are too low, correct?
Correct. So this is self-direction, and this is the way that I've been able to make it work for Kylan and for our family.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you let us know what long-term services and supports are?
Yeah, LTSS are long-term services and supports. That encompasses all of the services under Medicaid for people with disabilities. So that can be anywhere from a group home setting or customized living. It includes PCA services, homemaking services, home delivered meals, chore services. So all of those services are under long-term services and supports.
Okay, and what is the difference between PCA and homemaking services?
A PCA will do hands-on care for a person who needs activity of daily living assistance. A homemaker is someone that will come in and just clean your house, help with dishes. A lot of people can't get downstairs to do their own laundry, so they'll come over and do the person's laundry, some meal prep, those types of things for homemaking.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that's what long-term services and supports are. And long-term services and supports, correct me if I'm wrong, that it also, long-term services and supports extends to nursing homes, correct? And HCBS is a part of long-term supports, but in the community. Is that right?
Yeah, it gets pretty confusing, all the titles and the names and everything. Nursing homes are paid for by Medicare medical assistance or Medicaid.
So CMS, what we all think of as the Center for Medicaid Services.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. And what is a waiver?
So waiver is just a term for funding for services. So the waivers were implemented in Minnesota. We have the developmental disability waiver, CADI, CAC, BI, and then for people over age 65, there's AC and EW waivers. And those are a funding stream that allowed people to get their long-term services and supports in home versus in an institution.
Okay. And those started, I think, in 83.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure on the year.
As far as I can remember. It could have been like after that or before that slightly, but I think it was somewhere around 83. All right. And Kylan is on a waiver, correct?
He is.
So that says because he's on a waiver, that means that he doesn't have to live in an institution and he can live at home with you where he prefers.
That's what we use those services for.
Okay. Yep. Do you know people that are on waivers that live in institutions?
Well, that's a great question. And I call, of my opinion, because of the Department of Justice, I think that group homes, community residential service facilities, customized living facilities, foster care facilities, whatever you want to call them, 4-person, 5-person homes are institutions.
You think of okay.
I believe those are institutions. And that's because the Department of Justice tells us that those are institutions. How the Department of Justice defines a segregated setting, all of that describes a 4 to 5 person group home setting.
So in that perspective, then a group home is an would be institutions covered by the waiver because 4 to 5 person group homes are considered institutions.
By the Department of Justice, they are. The Minnesota Department of Human Services Disability Division does not label those as institutionalized settings.
And is that legal?
I don't believe that it is. I mean, you have the ADA integration mandate. Okay. You have Olmsted versus LC and EW. You have our Murphy versus Harpstead settlement agreement. Yet we're still calling 4 to 5 person group home settings. We're calling that community owned home. That's not community owned home. People don't choose to live there. They get put there. People don't choose who they live with. They get stuck with people to live with. People aren't choosing who provides their care. They get stuck with whoever the provider decides to employ to be there. So where in that description does anyone have choice about what's going on in their lives? Right.
But I'm wondering, I'm wondering why the DOJ and the state of Minnesota differ on their definition of institution and if it's legal to differ.
As do I.
On that. Okay, you also wonder, okay, great, we're on the same page. We wonder about the same things.
As do I. I would like for DHS to address that specific question.
Okay, and you've been at this for a hot minute. Have you? I'm sure you have. Have you written formal letters asking for that? I know you have.
I have.
You have. And what do they answer?
Just that they, and I provided some documents in an email of that today where DHS says that they do not define define those 4 or 5 person group homes as an institutionalized setting. They call that own home. They call that community integration and inclusion. And I don't think that it is as any of us would define it.
So they just get to decide, even though, so the DOJ doesn't get to decide what an institution is?
They have.
But why doesn't Minnesota have to follow it? Do you know that? Or is that everybody's question?
There seems to be a lack of accountability.
Okay.
So nobody's holding the state of Minnesota accountable for that interpretation. And there's no consequences to them. Where are the consequences?
And is there someone in theory who's supposed to be holding the state of Minnesota accountable?
Well, we have a Minnesota Olmstead Implementation Office. So I often wonder why they aren't holding DHS accountable for the definition of segregated setting.
What do you think it would take for someone to hold the state of Minnesota accountable for the definition of segregated setting?
I'm not 100% sure because if people say, well, let's get it written in legislation, but I also see we have legislation that's already written. We have court cases that are already settled and we're still not doing it. So does the Department of Justice have to come in and stir the pot a little bit? I don't know, but somebody needs to.
Do you think they will come in? The Department of Justice, do you think they will come in?
I think if we had enough complaints, they would.
Okay. And do we just write a letter to the Department of Justice?
Right. Yes.
Okay. We'll post some type of address on our Facebook page maybe and link it. And then everybody who listens to this podcast can write a letter.
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll do it. All right. Okay, we have that issue. And then another issue is that people who live in group homes often have a higher level of care than people who live in the community. Yes. Because if they could get their needs met in the community, they would, but they could not. And so they had to move into a group home. And sometimes we actually are paying those group home staff less to take care of 4 people than we are paying 1 person to take care of 1 person, which I'm also confused about. So that's another issue that I feel like needs some addressing.
I agree with you 100%. And so I've seen people who have lived in, and I know you have as well, seen people who lived in actually their own apartment with staff coming in assisting them. And they were persons with physical disabilities. Mm-hmm. And then because there's such a staffing failure ratio, when you don't have staff to come take care of you, then you're forced out of your own apartment or your own home, and then you're forced into a segregated 4-person group home. Mm-hmm. And then the taxpayers are paying that 4-person group home $500,000 a year, to which I say, if you were giving that individual $500,000 a year, they would have never had to have left their own apartment. So why are we so willing to pay that $500,000 a year for a segregated setting, but not for that individual with physical disabilities to access that funding to stay in their own apartment?
Yeah, or even if you had $500,000 to pay for it, you wouldn't even need to just have physical disability. You could have all the disabilities and still cover it.
All of them.
And all the disorders.
That's
and all
exactly
the medical
right.
needs.
That's exactly right. But we'll pay that rate for a 4-person congregate care institutional setting. We won't pay that for the person to live in their own home or own apartment.
Even though Olmstead mandates, right, that we are supposed to.
The ADA integration mandates it, Olmstead mandates it, and the Department of Justice has defined it for us.
Okay, we need to back up and define what Olmstead is because we haven't done that yet on this podcast.
Yes, there's a lot, isn't there?
Yeah.
So Olmstead it's the Olmstead decision. It was Olmstead versus LC and EW. Mm-hmm. And that was in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And they said that people were legally, you had to provide services for people out of an institution.
Did it say anything about the level of care you must provide? Did it say you must provide an equal level of care? An equal level of support?
That's a good question. But it would have to. I mean, that would I would think it would be assumed. I'm not sure if it explicitly stated that, but if I cost X amount of dollars to be in an institution and Olmsted is saying I don't have to live there, I can live in the community with services if that's what I choose, then whatever it takes to keep that person out of the institution should be used to keep the person in the community.
And that's what the law says, or that's how the law should be applied? That's
probably how it should be applied.
But that's probably not what it says.
Probably not.
Okay. Okay, so we have a lot that's already, and we haven't even talked about waiver reimagining.
I know.
We're gonna do that next. Can you tell us how a person becomes eligible for a waiver?
Okay, so for CADI-CAC, BIDD, the person either first has to be certified disabled, and that is through the Social Security Administration and SSI, or through the SMRT process, which is State Medical Review Team. So first you're certified disabled, then you apply for medical assistance. Both of those two are the keys that open the door, and then you apply for a waiver. You call and ask specifically for a Min Choices assessment for a waiver.
Okay, and how long are the waiting lists for the waivers?
That's an excellent question too. So, and this is why I say we can have it written in legislation, and it's not always what happens, and there's nobody even holding it accountable for the legislation. It states specifically in Minnesota statute that if I call in and say I need a Min Choices assessment, that they have 20 calendar days with which to provide me that assessment.
Really? Because I thought it was 30, 20.
20 days, and counties, lead agencies are terribly behind in that system. And so it can take 6 months to a year to even get the screening for a waiver.
Okay. Now I have another question on that. Do you think that counties do really want to get it done in 30 days and cannot? Or do you think that they don't have a lot of incentive to meet that deadline since there's no consequence if they don't meet it?
I think both.
And in fact, they actually save money if they don't meet it.
I think both. I think there's counties that are, and lead agencies that are really good about trying to get it done. But then, so DHS will mandate that this is how the assessment has to be done, right? But then the lead agencies have to go to that board to get money to hire staff to do what DHS wants done.
So it's very strange.
Right.
This is not how another business would be run.
Right.
And it's not a business.
Right. Yeah. So then they have to get more assessors on board, more certified assessors hired and employed by the counties to get the assessments done in a timely manner. And then we have to get that authorization from the county boards to pay for those positions.
And do you think the layers that we have to go through are intentional, or do you think that or do you think that they're necessary based on the complexity of people's needs?
You know, I've been doing this a long time. And we used to, when I was a case manager, there was, this was long before Min Choices 1.0, Min Choices 2.0. I was a case manager, and they call them legacy now, legacy screenings. But as case managers, I would also do the annual assessment for my client. And so I think DHS probably thought they were doing something good, which is, we can assume good intent, right? Maybe for some of the things. But then there's always these unintended consequences that always occur that nobody thought of when they made those decisions. And that is the problem.
They should have asked you. They really should have. So this was part 1, and then next time we're going to talk about waiver reimagining. But what about our current waiver system, without considering waiver reimagining at all? What would you want to leave people with, other than write a letter to the DOJ?
About our current waiver system?
Yeah, our current waivers, or even long-term services and supports.
Yeah, I mean, we are the people that elect our officials. We have legislators. We elect them. They are in charge of the Department of Human Services, right? Like we are paying their bills. Right. And so we have to make sure that our legislators are holding the Department of Human Services accountable for people with disabilities and their families.
Mm-hmm. And the way we do that is we write letters and file lawsuits, correct?
I say yes. And we make appointments with our legislators. We go in ourselves if we're a person with disabilities. We bring our loved ones in if they are the person we're caring for. And we go in and we meet with our legislators face to face, and we put names to concerns, not just letters and emails that they can look over.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me and having me here.
We know you're very busy. We really appreciate you coming and giving us your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, audience, for joining us today. We're so happy you were here. Make sure you tune in next week where we talk about Wave Reimagine, because right now it's like you only read half the book and you want to hear the end of it. So make sure you come back next week. We'll be back next week with part 2. We'll talk about Wave Reimagine, and it'll be a romping good time.
Boldly Challenging Ableism is a co-production of AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota. For more information, please visit ici.umn.edu.